Hey guys, Rick here, back down on the layout. Today I've got a demo for you that I'm hoping is going to save you as much money as it's going to save me. I'm going to show you how to take a tunnel portal and turn it into a master mold that you can use to make more portals. Check it out, coming up next. While I was researching this project, I stumbled onto something that touched my heart, and I wanted to share that with you guys. I realized on my layout I've got 4 tunnels, and if you include my helix, that means I've got 9 tunnel portals, 10 tunnel portals that I'm going to need to make. I realized fairly quickly that this is going to get expensive buying all these portals, so I started looking for an alternative. I found a video series on YouTube that was posted 3 years ago, and I knew this project was something that I wanted to try out, so I flagged that video so I could follow up with it later. It's been a few weeks, and now I'm ready for the project. I also had to wait for some supplies to come in, so naturally I had to go back and look at the video for a refresher to make sure that I didn't screw anything up. When I arrived at the video series that was posted on YouTube by a user named jiminmichigan, that's all one word, I stumbled onto another video that was posted on Jim's account. This video had also is the last video that was posted on Jim's account. The video was of a live stream that was put on by Jim's friends, family, and some followers. It also included Jim himself. In this video, it explained how Jim was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and unfortunately the doctors couldn't do anything for him and told him to basically get his affairs in order. Now the video was 2.5 hours long, and honestly I couldn't get through it all. There were some train moments, there were some touching moments, but mostly they focused on trying to help Jim out to support his family when he was gone. Unfortunately, Jim, once he got the news, rushed right home, started packing up his layout, and started selling it off in pieces so that he could have money to support his wife and his family while he was no longer here. I asked around a couple people on YouTube, some of the old timers, some that have big subscribers, and some people remember Jim, some didn't know who I was talking about, and there was one person who was able to confirm that yes, Jim did pass on. This is when it began to get emotional for me. Jim, much like the rest of us, found his way into this great community of ours online, and every day we sit and we document our lives, put ourselves out there and share our stories, our experiences, and sometimes our heartfelt feelings. I've heard good things about Jim, and the videos of Jim that I've seen, he seems like a guy that I would like to know. I can't certainly speak for Jim, but I can only guess that he, like the rest of us, just wanted to belong, be heard, and help others. This is now Jim's legacy. This is now our legacy. Finding Jim's page has shown me that not only do our videos and live stream help us connect to each other, but think of how it will help the others in years to come. I learned 2 things from Jim. One was how to make a really cool mold of tunnel portals for my future layout, and that's going to save me dozens. But more importantly, it showed me how my videos will hopefully help to inspire, educate, and connect the next generation to you, to your next generation. So I invite you to check out Jim's page. I got a link down below. watch his videos and take a moment to reflect and think of all the people that your videos will touch when you're gone. Thanks for watching. Now on to the demo. Alright guys, for this project, here are all the materials that you are going to need. First and foremost, you're going to need a tunnel portal. I was actually a little surprised at this when I purchased them. I thought these were going to be plastic, but it turns out the Woodland Scenics ones are plaster. You're going to need some styrene. I used some, it's from Evermodel. There's the information. It is 0.5 millimeters, so half a millimeter. You can use something thicker. I wouldn't suggest going thinner. This stuff is pretty thin itself. The size of the styrene really doesn't matter because it's just the outside casing of the mold. You are going to need some painter's tape. You're going to need some rubber gloves, plaster of Paris. You're going to need a container to mix your plaster, and of course some water as well. You'll also need a pencil to start with, an X-Acto knife, or some other cutting material to cut your styrene. You're going to need 2 paintbrushes, a really thin one and a thicker one to be used later. You're going to use some gauze. I picked this stuff up at my local pharmacy. You have to get the stuff that looks like webbing material. Do not get the one that's padded that you would actually use for like first aid. That's for later. All right, the main ingredient here that we're going to start with is latex rubber. Now, Woodland Scenics makes a product called latex rubber. You get it in a 16-ounce bottle, and when I priced it out, I think on Amazon it had it for $22 for the 16-ounce bottle. So I did a little research, and it turns out that the only thing that's in the bottle is latex rubber. So I thought to myself, hey, when else in my life did I use latex rubber? Well, I remember when I was a kid and we dressed up for Halloween, we used to use latex rubber to make scars and other effects for our Halloween costumes. This stuff I was able to pick up on Amazon for, I think it was like $10 or $11. A lot cheaper than Woodland Scenics. Same amount of container. It's 16-ounce bottle. Like I said, the Woodland Scenics was $22. This was 10 or 11 bucks, so significant savings. It's the same stuff. All it contains, its main ingredient, is natural latex rubber and water. Now, from what I heard in some reviews, this stuff is a little thinner than the Woodland Scenics stuff, and I'm guessing that's just from the added water. But ultimately, when it dries, it is the same material. So, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you want to do is take your sheet of styrene. I think it's 8 by 12, possibly. It doesn't say on here. But it's a full sheet of styrene, and what you want to do is take your tunnel portal, lay that down on your sheet, and then just cut out, maybe about a ½ an inch to an inch from each side of your tunnel portal. And then cut that out using your X-Acto knife, and then you're left with this. The pencil, believe it or not, was just there so that you can mark your lines so you can cut your pieces of styrene. The next part is actually very simple. We're going to do this in 4 stages, and it all contains this. So, what you're going to do is just shake up your liquid rubber or latex. Now, you can go and pour this stuff into a small container if you have it, and you can work that way. I found it's just as easy to get it right from the lip of the bottle. You're just going to take your small paintbrush here, and you're going to begin by just putting this all in the cracks and grooves, making sure you get all those fine details of your portal. I would not suggest pouring this directly on just yet. You're actually going to find we're going to do that later at a different stage. But right now, the most important part is getting all of those details. Now, one thing that I did forget to mention, as you can see, my tunnel portal is moving all over the place. If you have access to some double-sided tape, you could put that on the back of your portal and tape it down. The mistake that I made on my first go of this was I tried to use a couple dabs of hot glue and glue it down to the styrene. While it did work, it did glue to the styrene and it did hold on. Later, when I went to crack the mold, I realized that the hot glue made the tunnel portal stand up a little bit, and some of the latex got underneath. Not a big deal breaker at all. You just have to trim it off later with some very sharp scissors. So that you don't have any of that excess laying around. You could blot this stuff on. You can wipe it on. Doesn't matter how you get it on there. Before you start, you want to make sure that your mold is clean. There's no particles or dust or anything on it. And again, you just want to do this top layer in a really thin coat, because you want it to dry quickly so it gets all those details in there. Another thing that you can do to prevent this thing from moving around, you can get your mold, place it on your styrene, and then just dab the sides where the mold meets the styrene, and the styrene will actually, or the latex will actually start to work as a glue to get the styrene stuck to the mold, the portal, and that can also help it from not moving around on you so much. What you don't want to do is put so much latex down here that it's running all over the place, because you will need the room on the outside, because we're going to add walls to this so that we can cast it. The inside here doesn't matter so much because it's the inside, and we're not, even though we will be casting it, there's nothing that's going to interfere with this line. So if you wanted to, you could be very liberal in putting this stuff on. And it's okay if you miss a spot, because we're gonna be doing a couple coats of this. So if you do miss a spot right off the bat, don't be real concerned about it, because we'll probably catch it on another coat coming up. You want to make sure that you get all the corners. I'm not sure if you guys just noticed, but I actually just put my finger in here and it's dry. So that's how fast this stuff works. After I get it all coated, I'm actually going to leave it for a little bit before we do a second coat. Another thing to keep in mind, I originally thought when I purchased these molds, I thought they were plastic. I didn't know that they were plaster. So as I'm going through this and I'm adding this latex onto the mold, just keep in mind that you're adding a liquid to plaster. So if you move this thing around too much with a paintbrush, the plaster can soften a little bit, and you'll start to notice that you're getting brush strokes through your project. And while not a showstopper, it kind of adds a little character to your project, but you'll know, you being the person who did it, will know why those scrapes and scratches are there. I think we just have to do the top here. I'm going to flip this around. Again, making sure you get all those corners. So I'm going to end this one here. I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the second coat, and then we've got something special for the third coat, and then there's actually a last coat which will finish up the project, and then we get to cast it. All right, guys, that is part one of the latex mold project. I'm going to let this thing sit overnight and harden up, and then tomorrow, hopefully I should be able to get to show you part 2 and part 3. So until then, let's keep it rolling, and let's ride these rails together. See ya.